And we are live. Okay, so everybody start still filling in. Probably at the 1 minute mark, we'll randomize the draft order and get this thing rolling. Let's go, Corey.
Yeah, so we are live. Obviously, if you guys have any questions about the free agency moves that happened yesterday, there was,
Feel
quite
free.
a big name got traded in the NFL. So we'll definitely touch on that as well. But what we're doing in today's video, today's live stream, we were going to pre-record this and then, put it up to the channel afterwards. But, we were running short on time. So we figured we'd just do a live stream, talk about some of the news. We are tackling a 3-round single quarterback rookie mock draft. Typically, we talk about superflex content on this channel, but I know a lot of you guys out there play in one quarterback leagues. So we're not going to neglect those of you that do just because you play in one quarterback league. So we're going to give you a one quarterback rookie mock draft, 3 rounds here with a lot of the members of our Discord, a couple Patreons as well, or patrons. I literally screw that up every single time. Yeah, we're going to start this in a second. Danny, you can randomize the order.
You're actually the quote unquote commissioner of this draft. So you're going to have to
randomize the order then.
And also, if you can, make it on a fixed draft because right now it's in Snake.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Go linear then?
Yep, linear and randomize the order and we're all set, ready to go.
All right. Randomize teams.
Perfect. I got the 107, a classic Corey pick.
All right.
And I got to mute that sound. Yeah. But we got a couple comments in here. I have more faith in Brees Hall going 101 in this than I do in like Kentucky. Isn't it just fitting that in a year of one and dones of my teams that Kentucky coming into the tournament as a 2 seed loses to a 15 seed?
Yeah. St. Peter rise up.
Yeah, amen. Yo, what's up, Spicy? The 110 get wrecked. I'm kidding.
Yeah. So no surprise, Brees Hall goes to 101. Drake London 102. You can tell this is people in our audience. Most people would. I mean, typically I see a lot of people take Treylon Burks over Drake London, sometimes Garrett Wilson over Drake London. I've even seen, Kenneth Walker come off the board before Drake London. So let's see the direction that Decaden goes in here. He's, member of the Listener Dynasty League. He actually traded for Devontae Adams last week with me. So I wonder how he's feeling right about now.
For sure.
What do you guys think? What do you guys think of the Devontae Adams signing? Leave your, thoughts below, or trade, not signing.
Yeah,
I guess he got signed as well, but
comment your thoughts on the trade in the comments. We're always happy to engage. What's up, Fantasy Condo? Love seeing you come back in the chat. A familiar face in the live streams. So overall, throughout through the first 4 picks, we do see running back, wide receiver, running back, receiver type of theme here with Hall, London, Walker, and Burks all finding their way off the board. And classic Raiders fan in the chat, Spicy. He absolutely loves this team making that big money move for Devontae. But I'll let you get into your pick because I don't want to, go over your time.
Everybody kind of knows where I'm going with it. It's Garrett Wilson. So to me, in a one quarterback league, we can just kind of talk about the tier breaks real quick because we haven't, talked about how one quarterback drafts shake out quite often. But to me, this is a tier break. 105, whether it is Garrett Wilson or one of these receivers or it's Kenneth Walker, is probably Kenneth Walker would probably be in a tier of his own with Isaiah Spiller, depending how he tests, as the 105, 106 area after those top 3 receivers and after Brees Hall. So once you get into like the 107 pick, which is where you're picking right now, then it starts to fall off a bit, but you do have Isaiah Spiller on the board.
Yeah, Isaiah Spiller is going to be my pick. He's currently my 5th ranked one quarterback rookie, and I actually still have him ahead of Walker. Personally, I understand the combine. People are going to point out the fact that Walker tested a lot better than when we anticipated. But when I'm comparing overall skill sets, I see Spiller having the profile to be a potential 3-down type of back. I don't necessarily see that being the case with a guy like Walker. So gun to my head, I have to make a choice between the backs. I would still prefer Spiller. I also liked his tape a little better.
Yeah, for sure. And he's going to test, I guess, about a week or no. When does he test? I think it's on Tuesday or Wednesday. So he tests on the 22nd is when Texas A&M's Pro Day is. Also, Jalen Weidermeyer is testing that day too, who didn't test at the combine. So that'll be interesting to see because, I mean, if Isaiah Spiller goes out and has horrible agilities, has horrible, 40 time runs like a 4.66 or something at his Pro Day, I mean, I'm probably going to move Kenneth Walker ahead of him. I know I like Isaiah Spiller's tape better, but you need to meet a baseline level of athleticism at the running back position. And at the running back position, it actually has been a lot more predictive of fantasy success than it has for wide receivers. So I'm more likely to forgive Justin Ross's bad pro day, the other day, than I am to forgive a bad pro day for a running back because it has been quite sticky.
Yeah, like if Justin Ross still finds his way onto day 2, I'm going to be a lot more forgiving. Now, that's yet to be seen. Maybe he falls to round 4, round 5 because teams are nervous about the athleticism in the neck. That would be my concern about Ross's pro day. But in terms of Spiller, like, yeah, like as much as I love the guy on tape, as much as I thought that he had very, very good feet for his size, if he doesn't meet certain athleticism thresholds, listen, the running back's going to be a top heavy position. You need to meet certain athletic qualifiers to be able to be an elite back in fantasy. So I love Spiller's tape, but man, if he goes out and has a bad testing period and falls to, like late round 3, I'm going to be very concerned about his real potential in fantasy.
Right. And I hope Tampa Bay can get him in the 3rd round because we could use another young running back. But
For sure.
so as you guys can see at the end of the 1st round, we see a lot of wide receivers go off the board. George Pickens, Chris Olave. Chris Olave, to me, I personally would take Chris Olave over both Jamison Williams and George Pickens. I just think he's a much more complete prospect. I also think he is like guaranteed 1st round draft capital by all sounds of, what we're hearing in NFL circles. So I personally would have taken Olave over those guys. Christian Watson, Jahan Dotson, Sky Moore at 112. Somebody just said it in the chat. So Michael says in the chat, the rookie receiver that goes to Green Bay in the 1st round is going to be inflated in dynasty value. I wholeheartedly agree with this. I do think it's probably going to happen that the Packers spend one, if not both of their 1st round picks on a receiver, probably just one of them. And whoever it ends up being, and based on where they're picking in the draft, I don't think they're going to have a chance to get one of the top 3 receivers, but I could be wrong about that. It's more likely to be Olave or Jamison Williams or Christian Watson or, somebody in that back end of the 1st round range. And if it's Christian Watson, he's going to probably go up draft boards quite a bit. And he is the type of receiver that they've gravitated towards with the MVS type of build.
I will say though, if somehow one of those top 3 guys make their way into Green Bay, the hype will be warranted. The value will be warranted.
Oh yeah, 100%. If any of Drake London, Treylon Burks, or Garrett Wilson land there, I'm very much okay taking them as the 1st receiver off the board,
For sure.
in any format. And the tough thing is going to be if Christian Watson or Jahan Dotson or something goes there, and people start taking them over Garrett Wilson, who maybe gets a subpar landing spot or something like that. That is what we don't want to be doing, because at the wide receiver position, largely is going to stay the same post-draft as it is for me pre-draft. The only thing that's really going to change it is draft capital, not necessarily where they go, but when they go in the draft. So I'm on the board here, and Justin Ross went off the board right before me, which is the guy I was probably eyeing. This to me is another kind of cutoff point as far as, rookie drafts are concerned in one quarterback formats. I have a couple options I can go with on the board here. Everybody knows my, passion for these 2 players that I'm caught between. I'm caught between Tyler Algier and Sam Howell. In a one quarterback format, this is when I start to think about a quarterback like Sam Howell once all these wide receivers are off the board, some of the running backs as well. But I'm going to go with Tyler Algier with this pick. I think he's worth 2.5. If he somehow, again, if he gets day 2 draft capital, then he's a guy that I think I'm comfortable taking in the early 2nd round of both superflex and one quarterback formats.
Yep, fully agree there. So we do see James Cook go off the board here. And where is he? Let me just take a look. And then we can get into Alex's question because it's kind of been lingering here for a while. Is Jahan Dotson? Oh my God, he is.
Yeah, he went at 111. And again, I think Wyatt, smartly presumes that Jahan Dotson's probably going to go pretty high in the actual NFL draft. So yeah, he's probably going to be a back end type of 1st round pick in in one quarterback drafts as well. Because 1st round receiver draft capital, as much as Jahan Dotson, maybe isn't the prototypical size and has some, analytical question marks, he's still going to be a guy that gets drafted highly in the NFL draft. So that warrants that 111 pick for sure.
For sure. Also, side note, I just want to say for the next draft, let's actually sort it by the quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end tab, so we can sort by position. That was my fault because how I set it up, or told Corey to set it up. But either way, let's get to Alex's question. Kind of feel bad because he's been waiting for a while. In terms of his keeper, first 2 picks, early 1st, late 2nd to keep Najee and Javonte. I'd want to know the context as to who exactly is being kept in your league. And if
I'm sure an early 1st is where Javonte is going to go in regular drafts, no keepers. So I'm okay keeping that for Javonte. And I highly doubt Najee falls to the late 2nd too.
That's how I view it too. The only thing I would say is if you have the 102 and Christian McCaffrey would be available, or Devontae Adams maybe would be available, that would be my hesitation. But either way, given that I don't necessarily know what other players aren't being kept, I'd be more than comfortable giving up those picks to keep Najee and Javonte. Because, I mean, realistically, you mentioned Javonte should find himself probably at minimum in the mid to late first area at minimum.
I think he's
And
going to be an early first.
that's what I mean, at minimum. And in terms of Najee, I mean, getting him in the late second, I think is a very, very good value in itself.
Yeah. Michael says, do you think the Packers are going to draft 2 wideouts? I don't think. Maybe at some point in the draft, but not with both of their first rounders. I think they could go, with the Justin Ross in the 3rd round after they picked, Chris Olave in the 1st or something like that. I think that would probably make some sense, but I doubt they're going to use both their first rounders on wide receivers.
Yep, I agree with you there.
It feels like the Raiders are facing too much of an uphill battle in their division to justify trading for and paying Adams. I mean, the thing about these guys is that they have big egos, these coaches and these teams. They don't want to admit that their division's too hard to compete in because that's not how they're wired. So if they think they can compete, Derek Carr's a good quarterback. Their offensive line, made some progress last year. Obviously, Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller had, pretty good seasons. Same with Josh Jacobs. So adding Adams to that offense, it's good enough to compete with the rest of the division, in my opinion. The real question is, are they going to continue to add to the defense with Chandler Jones and Max Crosby already there? Sounds like they're in the running for Stephon Gilmore is the most recent report that I saw today. So if they're able to add some of those superstar pieces to their defense too, then I think it's not, crazy that they can compete.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, talking about the Raiders, yeah. Can they get, the 6-7 seed? I can see them, like, realistically here, I don't see a huge difference between the Raiders and the Broncos. Like, people, I get it. Like, I would probably
even the Chargers too, as good as their team and their quarterback is, they still missed the playoffs last year.
And that's what I mean. And they coincidentally lost to the Raiders in that ultimate deciding game. The reason why I point the Broncos is because, yes, would I face value take Russell Wilson over Derek Carr? Sure. But I mean, realistically, in the last year and a half or so, Russell Wilson has not performed at the level that we're accustomed to seeing from Russell Wilson. Could that be a trend that continues in Denver? Maybe he was just discontent with his positioning with the Seahawks. But overall, nothing's really given me pause to say that, Russell Wilson is a significant upgrade over Derek Carr.
Yeah, no, I haven't. I honestly, I haven't seen enough from Russell Wilson either to say that Derek Carr is like substantially worse than him, because Carr had a career best year last year. Russell Wilson had a career worse year last year. And obviously their situations weren't ideal, but the Raiders dealt with a number of things last year, from Ruggs' situation to Gruden's situation to, all the offensive line pieces they lost before the season. Like, the Raiders making the playoffs last year was insane, actually, considering how much happened to them.
For sure. It's so hard to sort through people right here.
Yeah, that's what Spicy God says. We faced more last season. Now it's just finishing games.
I mean,
the Chargers still being choke artists and beating down the Broncos. Yep, definitely makes sense. So overall, looking at the draft, we'll just get back to that real quick.
I can't find anyone.
I'll let Danny go on the clock here. He's got, he's panicking from who he's going to pick. I mean, you still do have Desmond Ridder on the board. That would be maybe worth this pick.
I would say Ridder or maybe Khalil Shakir would be the conversation here. I'm just going to go Ridder because I have him ranked higher. Obviously, this isn't a real draft. Otherwise, in a one quarterback, I probably wouldn't go double quarterback. It's just kind of to give you a frame of mind as to where exactly to expect these guys. For the future draft, for the next draft we'll make sure we have it sorted by position, so it's a lot easier to contextualize who's actually on the board, because right now trying to sort through names is pretty difficult.
Yeah. In terms of the actual clusters in one quarterback formats and superflex formats, we have the same player pool, right? All these players are going to go in both formats in a 3-round draft. They're just going to go later, the quarterbacks, in a one quarterback league than they would in a superflex league. But we do see a number of drop off points. To me, the first one is after the 106, 107 in a one quarterback league, once 100%. Spiller and, Walker and the top 3 receivers are off the board, whenever that ends up being 106, 107 area. And then you get into Olave, Pickens and stuff, who are fine prospects, but I do think it is a drop off in talent. And then you get into, after those guys are off the board, Olave, Watson, Dotson, Sky Moore, George Pickens, etc., Justin Ross, David Bell. Then you get another drop off point around 2-5, where I picked Tyler Algier, where you're more so betting on upside type of running backs. Algier and Rachaad White, we don't necessarily know where they're going to get drafted in the NFL draft. And I actually would make a bet to say that James Cook and Brian Robinson, who are the next 2 running backs off the board, probably both get drafted higher than both of those guys. If I had to guess, based on what I know about the actual NFL, then you're deciding between after those guys do I go with a quarterback or do I go in the direction of like Trey McBride or do I go with some of these like more questionable, I would say, pieces like Zamir White and Kyron Williams and John Mechie and Jalen Tolbert types?
Well, the only problem with a guy like Brian Robinson is that he's older than Corey, I'm afraid. I don't
He
actually
is,
know if
yeah.
he is, but is he actually older
I
than
no,
me?
I think he was born in 99, so I think he's a year younger than me.
I thought he was in 1998. Let me just
Either way, he is definitely old for a running back prospect. So,
he's 1999,
um,
yeah. It
yeah.
was just
So Alex also said a lot of the top running backs have been kept every year. One guy has held on to McCaffrey and Kamara for the past 3 seasons. I won't know who people are keeping until an hour before the draft starts. But
then
yeah, I
just
would
keep
say
your
easily
guys.
I'm taking Javonte over an early first because that early first is more likely to be like a late first, early second type of actual value.
Yeah.
And then Najee, like you said, for the other one.
AFC West is the new
I think
NFC
all
West.
4 teams can make the playoffs realistically.
Agreed.
All 3 of the wild card spots in the AFC could be belonging to AFC West teams.
Uh,
I mean, how likely is that? Because they got to play each other all the time. Not highly likely mathematically, but if they, if it's like dead even in that division and they dominate the rest of the conference, then it's possible that they all make the playoffs.
you could make the argument that that's probably the best division in the NFL and probably what, like the last 20 years at least,
I can't
man.
think of
Like
a better
I
division
can't
than
think
that.
of a better division than that, man. How do y'all feel about Renfro and Waller? I think if their target share goes down, yeah. The problem is though, is that
I'm seeing people defend Renfro like this is like good news for him. I'm
it's
like,
not
okay,
at
this is
all.
definitely not good news for Renfro because his
Like
value was target share.
I mean, let's contextualize it. We're talking about I mean, you could also lump Waller in there as well. Although I do think that Waller, given his talent, given his ability to stretch the field in general, won't be as affected as a guy like Renfro. But both of them are going to take significant hits. Listen, when you're bringing a guy like Devontae Adams, who was going to command 160, 170, 175 type of targets in this offense, it's going to take a hit on every single other ancillary piece in the offense. I love Renfro. I love Waller. They have shown that they can produce in the past, but bringing Devontae Adams to your team, guess what? Devontae Adams is going to get the targets. Devontae Adams is going to get the ball.
Yeah, because he's simply just a better player than both
He's
of those guys.
Devontae Adams.
As good as they are, he's just a better player than both of them. So,
Yeah.
real quick, let's recap our teams here. I went with Garrett Wilson in the first round. Pretty easy decision for me there. Tier break at wide receiver.
Yep.
I could have mulled over Isaiah Spiller versus Garrett Wilson, but I need to see how Spiller tests. I need to see where he's going to go in the actual NFL draft before I'm even remotely comfortable putting him in the same category as Garrett Wilson, who I know is a first round receiver who tested phenomenally as well. At the 2-5, Justin Ross would have been my pick if had he been on the board. David Bell as well, had they been on the board, but I went with Tyler Algier instead, who's a running back prospect that I think is very, very underrated, who can do pretty much everything well, similar to what I saw with Elijah Mitchell last year. And even if he gets drafted, in the third, fourth round, I'm still going to be in on him, just, not quite at an early second round price. I'll probably be more so a late second, early third round type of player for me, but I will own him in a lot of leagues if he goes that late in drafts for falling to like the fourth, fifth round of the actual NFL draft. And then Bam Knight, Zonovan Knight from North Carolina, another running back that I really like as like a day 3 sleeper. I highly doubt he goes on day 2 of the actual NFL draft, probably a day 3 guy, but a guy that I think is pound for pound the most elusive back in the class. And that includes Kenneth Walker and Breece Hall. Like I think he's more elusive than both of those guys.
Interesting.
His feet when he was doing the drills at the combine, the like what
Magical.
Cam Akers was doing a couple of years ago, like he looked like what Akers looked like. His feet are just butter,
Dude,
man. Like the guy is phenomenal feet.
And I'll say, man, like when I'm talking about just running backs, I know we don't like talking about, subjective traits, but I'm a sucker for a running back with good feet. When I see a running back with good feet, there's just
You got a foot
something.
fetish.
Oh, I mean, there's something so aesthetically pleasing about a running back that's just good with his feet. That's good and able to coordinate in tight spaces, man. I don't even know how to say it, but let's talk about Nate too. I think trading for Adams is huge for. I fully agree, and I know Corey actually tweeted it out. I mean, what's realistically the difference now between Josh Jacobs going into 2022 and what everybody projected and what ended up being the case for Joe Mixon last year?
I mean, the only difference that you could make, and Sam brought this up too, is even though Josh Jacobs had a career high in targets last year, I think he had 64 targets. It was when Kenyon Drake got hurt and John Gruden resigned. We don't know how the new coaching staff is going to deploy the running
That's
backs,
fair.
but even despite Kenyon Drake coming back, and they also signed Brandon Bolden, I think, too, and Amir Abdullah, I still think Josh Jacobs can hover around that 60 target range and still be relevant in the passing game. But the real draw, like Danny just mentioned, for Joe Mixon this year was the touchdown opportunity, being the fact that he was playing in the best offense that Joe Mixon had ever played in coming into this year with, the receivers on the outside and the young quarterback, and the offensive line was, marginally upgraded as well. So I think with Josh Jacobs, with that amount of attention on the outside against Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow in the slot and Darren Waller, at minimum, we're talking about a guy that should be able to match his career high 12 rushing touchdowns next year. And if he can do that, I mean, he was a back end RB1 in points per game in 2020 when he had 12 touchdowns. And I do think he could be back to that area. Now, am I going to be going crazy to draft this guy in the first round or anything? I mean, I'll have to determine where his ADP is and if he's actually worth that pick. But I do think he has, a higher ceiling than he's had in years for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. Love the content from Mossy Rock. The original Carr truther comment. I remember a couple weeks ago he was saying my ultimate buy low quarterback was Derek Carr, and let's say that aged like fine wine, brother. You got Devontae Adams in town. Let's just say Derek Carr's dynasty value is definitely taken a tick up since. So wanted to shout that out because I just replied to the comment this morning.
Right. And so with Derek Carr, among the veteran quarterback types, I'm actually just going to go to my my rankings manifesto real quick and see my buckets where I had Derek Carr before versus where I'm probably going to move him to now, because he definitely takes a tick up, like you said, getting Devontae Adams, and you got to assume that they're going to run, a fairly pass heavy offense as well. So as of before the trade, I had him below Kirk Cousins, below Aaron Rodgers, below Ryan Tannehill. I think I would rather Derek Carr than probably all those guys. Maybe like, because Tannehill's relatively young still, then that's a conversation, and he has great weapons to throw to also. But I mean, right now, if I'm on the clock, Derek Carr's 31 years old, Ryan Tannehill's 33 and a half years old. I'd probably take Derek Carr over Ryan Tannehill now, which would put him in my buckets as veteran quarterbacks as my quarterback 3 among veteran quarterbacks, only behind Russell Wilson and Matthew Stafford.
Yep, I would agree with that as well. I'm just reading D-Bell's comment a little later on.
I was I was watching David Bell in our Discord when Dylan was in the chat with me, and I told him the guy's name was D Bell. So I mean, David Bell, wide receiver from Purdue. Dylan, keep tabs on him because he is D Bell.
I mean, hey, D Bell, you gotta get into a dynasty league just to take him, I guess.
Yeah.
Devontae's still going to be I fully agree with you there, man. Like,
yeah, I think there's no way he's going below like the wide receiver 5 or 6 in redraft next year.
Well, if I'm on the clock, like maybe you argue like Jefferson over him now, but like
and Chase maybe too, and still maybe probably as well, but
like I think Devontae Adams is closer to number 2 behind Kupp than he is to falling outside of like the top 4 or 5. Like they're going to
definitely a guy that I'm still going to be very comfortable taking as a back end first, early second round pick in redraft leagues next year for sure.
I think I'd be comfortable mid to late first, man. Honestly, like realistically, because I mean, keep in mind I'm also a lot wide receiver, like more wide receiver heavy to
running back.
I pretty much hate running backs. I mean, everybody let me know on that in the Jonathan Taylor trade in our recent video, but I would still be super, super comfortable because Devontae demands targets and this offense should be good. And Devontae Adams has shown that he makes his offense better and he's able to score the touchdown or score the football. Or score touchdowns.
Score the touchdowns, yeah.
Score the football.
So Brock says it's worth taking a shot on a smooth athlete at running back late in the draft like I did, with Zonovan Knight. I agree. I think this year I could definitely see because the one underrated thing about this draft class is that we actually have a bigger player pool than we've ever had because a lot of players were granted like medical exemptions. What's the shocking expression on your face?
So apparently like Deshaun to the Falcons is like all but set.
Yeah. Oh, so CJ Golden had it yesterday.
I mean, sports guy Jake or whatever his name is.
He had it 4 hours before Sports Jake did.
Oh, interesting. Well, Josina Anderson tweeted, I'm told Falcons brass has keys to the city to bring a trade home with Deshaun Watson and would be surprised if that doesn't occur based on strong mutual interest and conversations. Separately, I expect Watson to receive new money in a restructured contract once any trade is done.
Oh, so we got a legit source saying it's real now.
So
thank God he's not going to the New Orleans Saints, and I don't have to hate the guy.
Let's just say one thing, man. Kyle Pitts... Is he the?
I mean, he's already the Dynasty tight end 1. I don't know where he's going from there.
Dude, I think you can argue him as being the first non-quarterback off the board.
Yeah, I think you could have probably made that argument before, though, too.
Maybe again in a non-tight end premium, I'm probably still taking Chase and Jefferson over him. But in a tight end premium,
And I'm
man,
taking Taylor over him, too, in a non-tight end premium.
that one's so close to me.
I would take Taylor over all of those guys,
That
personally.
would I can't, man. I can't.
Yeah, but you
Uh,
hate running backs, so we
I
know.
mean, that's evident. I think people in the video were like,
I
"Oh,
hate
Josh,
old running backs. I don't hate all running backs.
I kind of just hate running backs." Like, fuck.
Yeah.
Um,
Zamir
but
White probably went too late here in a one quarterback league. Yeah, I think
that's
typically you
fair.
see Zamir White go off the board before Algier, before James Cook, and probably around the same range as Rashad White. So I do think Zamir White is probably another guy that will probably be drafted pretty early in the NFL draft. I'm not really sure what NFL teams think of Zamir White because of the medical stuff, but it sounds like Lance Zierlein and like the big NFL draft heads like him.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's a hot take with the pieces the Chiefs have lost, but they could finish last in the AFC West. I'm not going to ever say that
I
the Patrick
can't.
Mahomes-led Chiefs are going to finish last in any division, but I mean, they didn't look the same last year, and the division's better now. So, I mean, it's not
I
completely crazy. I'll tell you that for
I
sure.
just I can't see it. Like if I were to make predict like how okay, I'll just put you in a spot right now. If you were forced to try to predict the order of the NFC or AFC West right now, how would you kind of lay it out?
I
One
would
to
put the
four.
Chargers last
Put the Chargers last. How would you
because
have
they're the
Houston?
Chargers. That's why. Not because of anything to do with Justin Herbert. They're just the Chargers. They're going to have kicking problems, injury problems, whatever the case is. Something bad's going to happen to the Chargers. So that's who I would put last. I'd probably put the Raiders third. And the Broncos second and the Chiefs first still. I know the Chiefs could be, not the favorite in their division anymore and could be, a new era or whatever, but I'm still going to trust Andy Reid and the Chiefs and
Maybe,
Patrick Mahomes.
maybe I'm crazy, but for some reason, again, I probably would have it Chiefs, Chargers, Raiders, Broncos, and I know that people
Now
are
you have the
probably going
Russell
to get
Wilson
on me
led
on that.
Broncos in fourth, eh?
It's
I mean,
tough,
that's
but
not
man,
crazy either. That's the fun part about this division, though, is that you could make an argument for any team to win the division. You could also make the argument for any team to be fourth in the division.
yeah, I fully agree with you there.
It's
Let's get to
probably,
some
and
call.
Daniel Jeremiah said this on NFL Network. He's like, it's really just going to come down to health. Whoever has the most injuries is going to be last.
Yeah, which I mean also doesn't work in the Chargers' favor because they always
Exactly
seem
why I chose them. Yeah.
they always seem to be dealing
They
with a
also
ton of
do
shit.
have like a little bit more, same with the Chiefs, I guess, as well, a little bit more of a top heavy roster.
That's
So
fair.
if the Chargers lost Derwin James and Joey Bosa for the year, like their defense probably going to stink. Same goes for the Chiefs, though. If they lost, Tyreek Hill on
Dude,
offense or something like that, it would probably
I,
be a big problem.
I don't know though, man. The Chargers got fucking Khalil Mack and JC
I
Jackson
know.
now.
They
Like,
definitely
fuck.
added some pieces to it. So
It's gonna be a lot of fun to watch how that unfolds, and loving enough, we get to see each of those teams play their respective rivals 6 times a year.
oh yeah,
So
like probably every game from that division will be on prime time. Like not even capping. Like they'll literally all be on
it
prime
should
time.
be. For sure. Let's get into some of these comments. So, running backs with good feet, that describes Bijan Robinson to a T. Oh, I can't
Running
wait for
backs who are
Bijan
good
next
at
week.
everything describes Bijan
Yeah,
Robinson to a T.
that'll be fun.
I'll go
And then
maybe. I'm so excited. I'm getting a Bijan jersey before the season starts.
Corey's gonna roast me when I have him like 103 behind Stroud and fucking Young.
There's
Though
no chance you're taking Stroud and Young over Bijan Robinson.
if they go 1-2 in the NFL draft, you can't get
If
too
Bijan
mad at me
Robinson
for
gets
that.
first round draft capital, it is ludicrous to take anybody else over him.
Maybe. Love the Raiders talk. Yeah, facts. Completed a trade of my 10-team Superflex half PPR Dynasty League yesterday. Traded away Mac Jones, CH, Ayuk in 105, and a 2023 second for JT and DJ Moore. So let's just contextualize this right quick. 105 in the second at minimum for me is DJ Moore. At minimum, I would probably still rather DJ Moore than that to begin with. So the fact that you're able to get JT, I know I am a running back hater, but the fact that you're able to get JT for Ayuk, CH, and Mac Jones,
Yeah.
this is perfection.
Yeah,
Like
it is
you
perfect.
did extremely well there. When your quarterback trio in Superflex is Mahomes, Lance, and Carr. Hey man, I'm just saying for those of you that are in the listener league and know that now I got Allen, Watson, and Herbert. I'm
That's a little scary. I'm not
a
gonna
little
lie.
lavish.
Yeah. In the league that I made, so I made a trade last night at about 1 a.m. Me and Chance on Twitter, I tagged him in the tweet.
I love
We
that
made a
trade too.
trade because I had Zach Wilson and Elijah Moore in a dynasty league that me and Danny were in together, but it's looking like the league's folding because we're both leaving the
Yeah.
league and a bunch of other people are leaving it as
Yeah.
well. So I had no more Zach Wilson and Elijah Moore exposure. So I'm like, I gotta go get these guys. Like I talk about the Jets all the time. They're like my closet favorite team behind the Bucks. So I went out and I traded away Justin Fields, Rondell Moore, or sorry, Justin Fields, Juju Smith-Schuster, who you guys know I absolutely despise, Gabriel Davis for Elijah Moore, Zach Wilson, and a 2023 second, which is probably going to be at least mid, if not early. So, and it's a 10-team league. So if it's early, it's basically a late first.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like that was a phenomenal deal for you. Also,
Elijah Moore to me was clearly the best player in the deal.
by
I
far.
didn't even have to mention in the poll that Justin Fields was my quarterback 3 behind Joe Burrow and Trey Lance also. So Zach Wilson is now my quarterback 3 instead of Justin Fields
I would
behind
say
those 2 studs.
I will say, like, I would, like, again, if I'm on the clock, I would still take Fields over Moore, but I mean, Moore is fucking like nipping on his heels. Like, Moore is,
I have Justin Fields and Zach Wilson in the same tier. So if you want to equate value, the early second in Zach Wilson is more than enough for me to get to Justin Fields and Elijah
that's
Moore
fair.
for Gabriel Davis and
Yeah,
Juju. Like just not
robbery.
close at all. So
Just robbery. And keep in mind, again, I'm more of the Fields truther here in our group, and I still think you fleeced that deal. So that'll tell you my thoughts on it. I think this is a great window to buy Devontae and Dynasty if you're contending.
Oh,
Yeah, I
100%,
fully agree.
100%.
I fully agree. If you're a contending team, like you're still getting a locked and loaded, what at minimum top 3 or 4 receiver this upcoming year.
Yeah,
I think I can
exactly.
safely say that. So yeah, trust the volume, trust the targets he's able to command. At least the Falcons roster will look like a. Here, you could take this.
Yeah, the Falcons roster will look like a JV team. Apparently, every trade offer I've seen seems to include AJ Terrell in the trade. So, I mean, their defense is going to stink. Deshaun Watson's going to be right back into the same situation he was in with Houston, where I'm assuming Brandon Cooks is going to be a part of this trade as well. And that, again, your time to buy Brandon Cooks is running out because he 100% will be part of that deal, given that the Falcons just lost Calvin Ridley for the year and all they have is Kyle Pitts. I'd be shocked if Brandon Cooks is not going to the Falcons along with Deshaun Watson. And hell, Will Fuller's probably going to sign with the Falcons as soon as Watson gets there as well. So I think what we're going to be tasked with is another year of elite fantasy quarterback Deshaun Watson because he's on a team that can't play defense and he has a lot of good pass catching weapons around him is what I'm looking at. And his offensive line doesn't look the greatest in the world either in Atlanta, but Deshaun Watson can help with that. Get Matt Ryan to Indianapolis. Yeah, I think that is just a dream landing spot. If you're a Matt Ryan truther, dynasty owner, or if you're an Indianapolis Colts fan, that's who you want.
And it's funny because I feel like, again, Matt Ryan's kind of gotten a lot of flack recently because, the Falcons haven't been great, but this is still like, a top 15-ish type of quarterback in the league. And much
with
more
a good
stability.
system, good protection around him, could he be better than Kirk Cousins this year? I wouldn't shock me at all.
And that's why I'm saying, like, with a team like Indy would be a perfect fit for Matt Ryan. We've kind of seen that the reason why Matt Ryan has faltered recently is that he's not the best when pressure is able to come in his face. Weird wording, but sorry, I had to address that.
I'm clipping that and putting that on Twitter, dude. That was fucking hilarious.
He's not good. I'm sorry. He's not good with pressure in his face, and Atlanta's line has been a train wreck. So if we're talking contextually with a team fit, setting up a team that has arguably the best line in the league, which I'm sorry.
I'm dying. Yeah, no, that was that. I mean, I get your point. Yeah, he's not good under pressure, and you got a great line in Indianapolis, so that makes sense. I'm fucking dying. And everyone's AO in the chat. Oh, I'm dying. Bryson goes, I want to trade all Deshaun shares now. Yeah, literally. Exactly. He's a Saints fan, so he's a little bit upset. I'm just so glad he's not going to New Orleans as a Bucks fan.
Sorry, I have to compose
I wouldn't want Watson put up numbers with a bad situation on Houston. Yeah, literally. Like Watson, if the situation is bad for him in Atlanta, he's still gonna put up numbers because he's that good.
Yeah.
Love when y'all are live. Loving the
Appreciate
fan time
that,
you give us all. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. So
appreciate that, Edward.
Thoughts on my trade? I traded the 106, 206, 211 for the 103 and Christian Kirk. I don't mind that move. You're going to secure a better asset with that 103, and Christian Kirk to me If you told me Christian Kirk versus the 206, if you're high on Christian Kirk is like an even trade, I don't think
Wait,
that's terrible.
is that in the same league as the dynasty decisions question we got?
Maybe.
Is that not the literal trade that we were talking on dynasty decisions?
It might be. I'm not. My memory's a little foggy on Bryce's team, but maybe it is.
No, I think we got it from the opposing viewpoint. So like
Oh,
the other person must have put the deal in dynasty. I forget. I think it was Tano.
maybe.
Remember you was
Either
asking
way,
about
I'll
ETN?
take the 103 and Christian Kirk there because the difference between the 103 and the 106. Again, assuming the board falls the way it is, of course, if Garrett Wilson or something falls to 106, then I probably like that side of things. But 103, you're guaranteed, maybe Malik Willis or Brees Hall falls there in a super flex. But if they don't, you're guaranteed, wide receiver one of your choice and Christian Kirk, who's worth at minimum the 211, if not the 206.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I think we said that on the episode too. Sorry, I'm just recatching my bearings, but yeah, nice move there.
Spicy Hot said he clipped it.
Yeah, Devontae's a huge move. Edward says 12 team Superflex PPR Dynasty final stance for Chase owner. He wants my Higgins, ETN, and Kittle in exchange for his Chase Ertz 210 or Higgins, ETN, and 104 for Chase and 210. What you think I would do? Turn both down. So let me see. Higgins, ETN, and Kittle for
The first deal I would not do. That's too much to give up for sure. I'm just reading through this as we go through. I also think the second deal is too much to give up as well for Chase.
yeah, a little bit. As much as I love
Like if
Chase,
you want to give up Higgins and ETN for Chase, like that to me is probably a fair value. Like I maybe that sounds crazy if you guys are super super high on Chase, but I'm super high on ETN and Higgins too. So like I don't really want to
that's
give up those players.
that's fair.
And yeah, Higgins, ETN plus Kittle, like that's a lot to give up in my opinion for Chase. Who Chase is going to give you what 4 to 5 more points per game at most, more than Higgins at most, in my opinion, for like the next couple of years. So I would rather have the Higgins side of both of those trades.
You know what I just took in? It looks like you're not even there because of the message prompt.
Oh, really? Yeah, because it's so big, you can't even
just,
see me.
just hidden.
Yeah, I
Yes,
mean,
sir, Bryce.
we could probably hide
Uh,
the board now. We can just
uh,
go wide.
Alan Watson. Yeah, and then we could start another one after we get through some comments.
Well, I want
Organize
people
a
to
little better.
rewatch this
That's
afterwards too.
fair.
I don't want to make the thing too long.
We'll do it quick then if you want, or if not, no worries. Alan Watson. Yeah, I'm super excited about that core for the future. Brock had some future assets, but I'm like, you know what? I got a lot of future assets. Let me try to make a move there. So I was excited. This would be a dream if Malik falls to me. Yeah, dude, if Malik falls to you at 2-2. We were literally talking about it yesterday, man. If Malik falls to you at 2-2, you are in a very good spot there, Jeff. FYI, Pitts in 101 still. Yeah, still that's just a little bit too much for me. I love Pitt or I love Chase, and I'm willing to overpay from a contextual standpoint to get Chase on my teams, but that's just a little more willing than I'm going to do or more than I'm willing to do because I still also have Higgins like top 6 or 7. You guys, if you have our Dynasty manifesto, I have them really significantly higher than consensus. So
Yeah, and just adding Brees Hall to your running back core and just
yeah,
using these guys as like flex pieces. Like you can win your championship a couple different ways. One, you can have a couple elite superstars like Chase, or you can have a bunch of really good players, which is what like looks like you're gonna have.
for sure.
And you still have
Robert
superstars like Pitts and stuff too. So
Robert Woods, this is actually a good question here because Robert Woods might be on the move if he gets traded. What do you think about Allen Robinson? I'm letting other people prop him up. I'm letting other people make the narrative about the offense, make the narrative about the player, what he's done in the past. Because I get it. His quarterback situation was not good last year, but Allen Robinson was just not the same Allen Robinson that we've seen. And anytime an older player shows a downturn in play, I'm just more willing to invest that type of capital that I would have to spend on him in my draft in a young ascending type of player. Like, for example, if Allen Robinson, propped up by the offense, finds himself in a similar ADP spot as like Elijah Moore, like that's a no-brainer to me.
right, and it'll also depend too because we're gonna have Matt Harmon on the channel in a couple
Yeah,
weeks. Spoiler alert: if Matt Harmon noticed a downturn in Allen Robinson's like play, then I'm definitely gonna be off him. But if he's like, hey, no, he was the same player like from a separation standpoint and stuff, then maybe I rethink that stance. But Allen Robinson's quarterback situation only mattered this season. It has never mattered at any other point in his career. So the fact that he wasn't able to overcome it this year maybe speaks more about Allen Robinson than his quarterback situation.
For sure. 12-team Superflex half PPR. I got Lamb and the 107 and traded away Zeke, Schultz. That sounds like a whole lot of nothing to get two really good stable assets. I would fully argue that you got the two best assets in the deal. Absolutely love your side there, Jesse.
Yeah, for sure. And you offload a guy like Zeke, who, I mean, part 2 of the sell these running backs now will be coming in the next. I mean, I literally just recorded it before this live stream. So I don't know if I'm going to drop it tomorrow or whenever, but I'll drop it soon.
Yep. Hit the like button. Yeah, if you guys are watching the stream, 38 concurrent viewers in the live stream at this moment. Make sure you leave a like down below. It really helps us grow in that YouTube algorithm. Let's appreciate that from Bryson. We got get back to Brock. He says, I just want to see Matt Ryan with a good offensive line, and Reich would be his best coach in Sanderson. And that was the point I was trying to get to prior to, the
so much AOs in the chat.
Yeah, and then we can see exactly when it happened because the AOs are all coming out. God, okay. And then we actually got Sleeper Marcus in the chat too. What's up, boys? Was the ADP relatively
Sleeper Marcus just ignored what happened and just went right to the question. He's like, I don't care what I just heard. I'm going for the question.
Love it. The ADP was relatively deep. I think it's on our problem because we organized it by flex when I should have said let's organize a quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end, because it would have been better for us to see like what positions and what players in each position. But overall, from an actual ADP list, from an actual player list, like nothing really stood out as, missing when we were doing that draft. So overall, I do think that Sleeper did a good job in displaying those names. So no real concerns on our end.
He DM'd me it. I just got it. He sent me it as well.
Yeah, I did as well. Spicy, the real MVP. Hey, Jeff, one of the moves we said yesterday, trade 103 and Harris to try to get the 101 because running backs are very, very scarce in his league. Absolutely love that move for you. Listen, Damien Harris is probably in a one quarterback league. I wouldn't pay more than like an early type of second. And if you're telling me, 103 and an early second for 101 Breece Hall, give me Breece Hall.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly where I'm at. And Jeff, we had a consultation with him yesterday. So, I mean, if you guys are so inclined, you want to talk to us one-on-one or two-on-one, I guess, link is in the description for those if you're curious.
For sure. Definitely a good time talking ball and talking his Dynasty team. So, you can take it from Jeff himself if he wants to elaborate. But either way, if you guys are interested, hit that link. We'll get into some more comments. Thoughts on Cup? If we were to sell him, what should I be looking for in return? Contender. If you were looking to sell Cup, what would you kind of be looking for, Corey? Because personally,
so it's similar to the Adams trade that I made a couple days ago. I sold Adams to Caden in our listener league, and in return, I wanted a guy that's going to still keep me competitive at receiver. I got Deontay Johnson. Plus, he also got Damian Harris in the trade. I also got Christian Kirk right before he signed, and I got a second next year and a third next year. So if you're looking to sell Cooper Kupp and you want to down tier to a worse version of like a contending win now type of receiver, I'd probably be looking in that Deebo Samuel, Deontay Johnson, DJ Moore area, DK Metcalf, maybe somebody like that. If you can tier down and get a first on top of those guys potentially, or another first caliber receiver, like a late first type of receiver would be like Amon-Ra St. Brown. So if you can tier down from Cooper Kupp to Deontay Johnson and Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm okay doing something like that.
For sure. Yeah. I think that'd be a phenomenal move. You mentioned Amon-Ra, you mentioned Deontay, other, producing quality wide receivers, and added draft capital would be a perfect transition. So love that move. I also think Ryan to Indy could really set up JT. Wouldn't be shocked if he gets 15 or more receptions next year. Wentz would never check down to JT. All his receptions were schemed up. Yeah, I could definitely see that being the case as well there, Brock. Because we kind of know that Wentz doesn't target running backs. He only targets tight ends. It really seems like Wentz's targets one wide receiver and tight ends. That's what he loves. Yeah. Edward's the new co-host. Wait,
because I was blocked out when we were showing the thing. When his question was on the screen, I wasn't showing.
Yeah, fact. If I'm selling Kittle, what should I be seeking? in terms of relative pick value, I'd probably
I mean,
say
he
a
has
mid
Pitts
first,
too, so like I'm more so willing to get draft capital for Kittle than like
mid
another
one,
tight end, for example.
mid first is probably about appropriate, I would say.
I'd probably need a top 5 pick this year to sell Kittle.
Well, that's what I mean. Like mid first is typically, for me, 105 to 107. I feel like if I get anywhere in there, I'm happy, but I would definitely aim to try to get in that top 5.
Yeah, if you can guarantee me Drake London, Garrett Wilson, or Treylon Burks, I will take the 105, 106 for sure.
Agreed. Yes, sir. Appreciate that fire from Alex. Means a lot, brother. Missed it earlier. Just rewatched it. I got Tony and ETN for Cup last season.
I mean, I think you could get more for him now, which is kind of unfortunate, but I mean, I don't think that's a horrid return.
I agree. I mean, and we both believe in the potential of ETN, and I mean, Tony showed some good flashes last year. Although I think
I think that was a great return for him last year at the time before Cooper
at the
Kupp
time.
exploded.
Yeah, for sure. Jameis Winston, Jamison Crowder, Jamison Williams. Imagine
that'd be a lot of Jamesons. They'd have to just drink a bunch of Jameson whiskey.
Pick 104 in Superflex or Devontae.
I'm taking Devontae there.
Well, this is the beauty of Dynasty to me. If you are not a top contender, this isn't a bad transition move. Getting a Garrett Wilson, getting a Burks, getting a London type of wide receiver. Adding
I'd
you
still
to your
probably
team.
want more on top of that.
And I probably would as well, but that's why I love Dynasty trading, because in the eye of the beholder, like if you're in a pure fucking rebuild and Devontae's like your only player, like, yeah, this would make sense for you to do. Like maybe you'd want a little bit more, but gun to your head, that would make your team better. And this kind of goes into the theme that we were talking about on yesterday's video. If you are in a situation where you have to commit to a rebuild, sometimes you're not going to be able to get 100% value.
First and a second and a piece or something. I think fair value for Devontae Adams would be the 104, a second rounder, and maybe an upside piece. But
yeah, I would agree.
Is anybody going to give you that? Like that's really all depends on your league, right? So some leagues might be more casual redraft style leagues. They might give you 2 firsts for Devontae Adams, in which case I would definitely take that. But if somebody's only willing to give you the 104 and a face planner, or the 104 and like a second rounder, like a mid-second rounder, like, and that's all you can get in a rebuild, then sure, that's definitely a worthwhile trade for a rebuilding team.
For sure. Bryson says Bateman 201 or DK. Give me DK there.
Yeah, give me DK easily.
Yep. If you're a contender, make that move.
Yeah. Easily. Oh yeah. If you're a contender and you're trying to get Devontae Adams, I'm easily making that trade.
100%. But yeah, we caught up the comments. I mean,
I'm starving, so I might need to sign out of here. I haven't eaten any lunch yet, and it's like 3 p.m. almost.
Yeah, so same. But either way, guys, keep tuned in, because we got some quality content on the way over the weekend. You guys know Dynasty Decisions is definitely on the way, and some other stuff.
We might go live again tomorrow to do a startup mock as well. So if you guys want to hop in for a startup mock draft, make sure you're in the Discord, or Patreon members will send them out a link a little early as well. But we'll do a sleeper mock, basically just a startup, like 12 rounds or something. And that'll also be one quarterback. We got to show the one quarterback bro some love.
Yeah, for sure. So either way, appreciate you guys for sticking with us for about the last 50 minutes. And we're going to sign out and get some food and take it easy.